you doing? You gotta come over so you can watch it live. All right. I'm gonna give everyone a little chance to hop on. It's Friday. Woohoo! I know, yes. Hello. Gotta be closer. All right. Things are starting to open up, so I know that Fridays are gonna become a little more difficult with the lives. So I may have to revamp that and push it to another day of the week. So let's see what happens. And plus, so many people are going on these lives. Let's see. Oh, this light is so strange. Okay. Oh, no. Hey, Julio. Long time. I hope everything is well with you and your family. Thank you to everybody who is tuning in right now. Trying to get some good lighting. All right, I think that's good. Hey, it's been a while. Hey, Miss Biz. All right, waiting a little bit to see if a little bit more people come on so we can get started. I do want to say that it is such a hard time right now with not only with the pandemic, but with everything that's just going on with the police brutality and, you know, just the racism, and it's just a lot going on. It's just a really crazy, sad time. I just saw somebody post something about, you know, our youth in the future reading about history in 2020 and how, you know, just heavy it's going to be talking about this particular year and this particular time. So my heart goes out to, you know, just all the families being affected by all of these things that are, all these horrible things that are going on right now. So I think I'm going to get started and let Miss Biz in. So give me 1 second. All right. Yeah, same here, Julio. Same here. This is crazy. All right, hold on 1 second. All right, let me also put up my volume. All right, cool. Hey, Savory Edition. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. I have some really dope guests tonight. They're going to share some great information with you guys, so I can't wait to get started. It's going to be a good one. Yes, prayers for everyone. Yes, I agree. Prayers for everyone. It's been a really unexpected time with this whole COVID, and then, you know, topping it off with the, you know, just the continued violence and racism and injustice, and you know, our head of state, you know, making the comments that he's making and things like that. Just a sad time. I don't want to say too much about it because I know sometimes they block social media for certain things, but it's just a crazy time. Yeah, definitely, Julio. Once things open up, we can definitely do that. Um, let's see. All right, I had accepted Ms. Biz, so let's see what happens. I don't see her popping up yet, unless, let me see, because I see her too. Okay, let me see if I can request her. All right. All right, it says, let's see what's happening here. All right, for some reason it says I'm unable to add you, Shaquanna, so check it out and let me know what's going on. Hey sis, yeah, it is a time for real change. And the thing is that, oh man, like who knows what's the right thing to do? Like the riots, we need to stand up and speak up, you know, and do, and you know, do the protesting and everything. But I really feel like we shouldn't let it get out of control. We shouldn't, add more fuel to the fire and give people reason to say, well, this is why we discriminate, you know, and why we racially profile because we're dangerous or anything like that, you know. So we definitely want to take an approach where we're speaking up about it, but where it's not continuing to hinder us and continuing to affect us when we retaliate. Um, you know, and I also saw another video where somebody was um, talking about how instead of using violence, we should start just empowering our communities and just, you know, teaching each other how to, you know, build our own businesses, support our businesses so we can bring capital to our neighborhoods. And this is the way we're going to be able to have influence in politics, influence in education, influence in different areas. And I think that that's a very good point. And I think that we need to, you know, start thinking about that. And this is why these lives and these webinars are super important, because people that have these platforms, you know, that are doing amazing things for our Black and brown community, that are, you know, everyone that's teaching us how to build our wealth and how to bring wealth into our communities, we need to start listening up and start working on these things, because that's what's going to make a real change down the line. Once we have our own, they can't strip us from that, you know. And so I think that's something that, you know, it's a really great point that we should focus on. I don't know what's going on. Thanks, Julio. Thank you. Okay, I requested, but it says request didn't go through. All right, let me try to request you, Shaquanna. Let me see. Okay, I just sent you a request. All right, cool.
Okay,
hey,
finally. Hi.
Awesome. I'm like, what's going on?
I know. I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get on this live, because it just kept saying, like, you requested, but it said at the top, like, your request didn't go through.
Yeah. So,
that's the same thing I was seeing.
But thank you so much for being here with me tonight. Yes, it looks like everyone's popping in. That's cool, because I definitely want as much people to listen into our conversation tonight as possible. Like I was just talking about before you introduced yourself, you know, there's a video that I saw today talking about how, you know, not only should we retaliate towards, you know, the racism that's going on right now through riots and things like that, but we should also start creating our own businesses and building our own businesses and bringing money and capital into our neighborhoods. And this is why, you know, I appreciate, you know, business owners like yourself who are sharing that knowledge and who are sharing, you know, all of those resources, because that's exactly what we need right now, you know, just to be able to, you know, have a say and have our own. And I think once we start working hard on that and start doing that, then, you know, we'll be able to influence, you know, politics and education and everything like that. So thank you for being here tonight. Hi, Marksman.
You are more than welcome. And I mean, I totally agree with you. You know, we definitely have to start our own businesses, be our own, you know, be our own impact within our communities. I think that we have, of course, we're not there, but I think the awareness was already there, right? Before Corona happened, before these events happened, right? Like these same scenarios were happening last year and the year before. And I think that as a community, the awareness that we have to have our own businesses and have our own products and spend our money within our community and educate and empower each other. I feel like we are definitely moving more towards that now more than ever. I actually was just having this conversation last night, and I do think that, you know, social media is a very, very good push and influence in all of this, because it's so much empowerment everywhere, right? It's kind of like you're an outcast if you're not on the empowerment trail,
right?
So, you know, so I definitely agree with that. Like, we won't have any sort of control, but, you know, it is a very, very crazy time. The pandemic, all of the racial issues that's going on, it's really heartbreaking. Like, I haven't even really been on social media just because it's just been a little crazy. Like, it's super overwhelming, because, you know, you're consistently seeing videos, and then there's more videos and more incidents happening. And it really is, you know, it gets to a point where it's like, when does it stop? right? And so it has been extremely emotional and overwhelming over these past few days on social media. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like even with everything that happened with the pandemic and once they shut down the city and everything, like me personally, sometimes I just feel like such at a loss for words. Like I don't even know how to react to this, what to say, what to do. Like sometimes I just feel so helpless. So I definitely commend everyone who is standing up, for Black America, for us Black and brown folks, and who are at down there right now, putting their life on the line to just speak up on the racial inequality and the racial abuse and everything that's going on, because it's not an easy thing to do, and I just wanted to say that at the beginning of our conversation today. So thank you for sharing your thoughts as well.
Of course.
Yeah, but introduce yourself to everyone, let everyone know who you are, your social media and everything, and then we'll get right to it.
Okay, so my name is Shaquanna. I go by Miss Business across all social media platforms. My Instagram is Miss Business 101. I'm a CPA. I work primarily with small business owners, real estate investors, just trying to help navigate that the space of taxes and accounting, because it is like one of the most important parts of your business, but the most ignored part of small business owners business, because they just don't understand, right? So I wanted to bring something refreshing and new to financial literacy as it relates to taxes. No one was really having the conversation about taxes when I first started. So I wanted to be able to bring what I've learned in corporate, where I spent 6.5 years, and bring that to small business owners and real estate investors. I do have my own tax and accounting company, Brooks Alliance. And at Brooks Alliance, we do tax preparation, bookkeeping, business formation, payroll, tax planning. So pretty much all those steps that takes business owners from, inception of starting a business to, the final thing, which is saving on taxes, right? Because that's everyone's thing, like, oh, I want to save on taxes, but there's a lot of steps that needs to be taken in order for you to save on taxes. So that's me and what I do in my business. And yeah, I like to have fun. Like I just like to have fun with it and try to make it as digestible as possible. And I think that is something that I do very well, because people are like, okay, I understood that, when I try to explain things. So
yeah, I mean, just like with the youth, having someone that's relatable and learning from that person it makes things so much better and so much easier, and especially having someone who cares about the community like yourself and about bringing that back. Like, I'm super grateful for everything that you're doing. You're like literally a mega powerhouse right now. And this is why I think also social media is very important, because we get to bring now the resources to more people, to the masses. And I think that you've been able to do that very well. And, I'm so happy that I got to meet you through our mutual friends.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Because, people don't understand. I didn't understand also, like when I wanted to jump into this entrepreneurship world, what it would take, like what exactly I needed to have in place, in line, and things like that. And, you don't want to be caught up in a place where you've already had your business for a few years and then boom, you're getting audited by the IRS. So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. So thank you again. And I want to start I know you just shared a little bit in your introduction on your history, but I want to get a little deeper and have you talk about what made you go into becoming an entrepreneur and going into the business tax planning consulting service lane and everything like that.
So it pretty much was a bridge of my upbringing. So I grew up in a family business. So entrepreneurship is not anything new to me. I've been working in my dad's restaurant since I was like 6 years old. By high school, I was able to like work in his restaurants full time, run his restaurants, my brother and I. So, it really was second nature and something that I always knew I wanted to do. It wasn't anything that was like too far-fetched. It was like, okay, I know I want to start my business. However, I also want to see what's going on the corporate side of things, because corporations are doing things so much bigger. And so I need to understand, and I want to know what's going on over there. So, you know, then I can make a decision on what exactly I wanted to do. So, you know, after leaving college, I went straight off, work in one of the big four accounting firms, stayed there for 6.5 years. I first started out in private, in mutual funds. Pretty much mutual funds is the investment vehicle that like 401ks invest in. And then from there, I went into real estate private equity. I love real estate. So I wanted to understand and know what they were doing from a real estate perspective. So transition into the real estate private equity sector, stayed there for about 4 years. And then when it was time for me to leave, you know, I just got to a point where I really left because I wanted Miss Business to educate. I wanted to be that voice. You know, I wanted to have my tax and accounting company, but my passion and the reason why it was even a thought of me leaving and starting my own company is because I seen that there was such a big difference between how corporations were approaching taxes and how small business owners were approaching it. And so I was like, you know what? There's that opportunity there for me to be that voice and that educator, so that the topic of taxes is common, right? Like in corporate, we talk about taxes all year round, right? And so when it, you know, was time, it was just like, all right, well, let's do this, you know. And I also didn't mention, you know, yes, I grew up in my dad's restaurant, but I also owned a clothing boutique. You know, in my early 20s, I owned a clothing boutique. So for me, entrepreneurship was always a thing. Like, it was like, okay, like, what do you want to do? You want to own your own business? Okay. And so that's why I do think, and I feel like I'm a huge testament to, you know, build your businesses, include your children, educate them, because I was actually doing a live like last week with someone, and, you know, we were talking about business, and I was like, honestly, business was always an option for me. It was always an option for me. It didn't seem as though it was anything that was far-fetched. I went to go see my dad a few weeks ago, and he's like, wow, yeah, I've been doing this for 33 years. I'm like, wow, that's a long time.
Right.
You know, so that's pretty much all that I seen from him was entrepreneurship. So because that's all I seen, you know, it was something that I always put in my plan of things that I wanted to do if that was the route that I wanted to go on.
Right. That's amazing. So that's good. So you already had the entrepreneurial bug in you. So you're like, I know eventually I'm going to open up a business or a few businesses. So that's awesome. That's an awesome story. And I think that that's something that we should be thinking about when we want to, you know, break that generational curse, right? Of, you know, some of our parents not graduating college or not, you know, investing in property to leave for their family or starting their own business. You know, I know for me, I have 2 children. So that's something that I've been thinking about, especially this year during this pandemic. You know, what can I build on? What can I invest in? You know, what can I learn to give to my children? So I think that's amazing. So I know that once the first stimulus package was dropped, you definitely sat down, did your homework, you broke it down. And I remember seeing it and thinking to myself, like, this is like ultimate dedication. Like, I love that. I love that because those things are huge, you know, and
it was 800 pages.
Yes. So talk to us a little bit about that, and talk to us about where we're at after that first stimulus package was dropped or you know, passed into law, and where we are with the small business loans.
Okay, so for those who are not aware, I'll just give high level. When the stimulus package was released, it pretty much covered a few things. Major things as it relates to small business owners was the small business loans, one being PPP, the other being EIDL. So PPP stands for Payroll Protection Program, and EIDL stands for Economic Industry Disaster Loan. So now both loans, two separate loans. So I'll talk about each individually. So EIDL had a pre-advance. That's the one that everyone was signing up for, thought they were going to get $10,000. And then they changed the requirements where you get $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000. So if you had 11 employees, you got $10,000. So you couldn't get more than 10,000. Then what the second part of the EIDL, which is actually going on now, they started maybe about a week or two ago, is the actual loan portion. That loan portion was sent out to everyone who applied based on their revenue and their cost of goods sold. And they'll say to you, hey, this is the loan amount. How much of this loan amount, like, so let's just say, for instance, they say, okay, well, you're eligible for a loan of $100,000. How much of this $100,000 do you actually want to apply for? The loan is a 30-year, 3.5% loan. And it is a 30-year, 3.5% loan. So you have 30 years to pay it off. I wouldn't recommend, because I did the math on it. I'm like a math junkie. So I did the math on it. You don't want to wait 30 years you don't want to wait 30 years to pay this off, because the interest on it is going to basically almost double the loan, right? So you don't want to do that. However, for me, there are a long list of things you cannot do with the money. Let's just say that. So you can't get the money and then say, you know what, I'm going to take it and go like invest in some real estate. Like, that's clear. You cannot take that money and then invest it in real estate, even if it is for your business. Like, you can't do that. But so for me, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get my loan, because I'm putting technology in my business, right? Technology is expensive, but if I have that money, and honestly, 3.5% is not a huge price to pay to borrow money. And so, especially when you have credit cards out here where they're charging you 10 to 20, 23%, right? So you also have to think about it like that. Like, what is your cost value? What are you going to do with this money to then flip the money, so to say, so that you can then invest it into your business to grow your business. So for me, it's all about hiring more people and implementing technology into my business. Then we have PPP. So that's a payroll protection program. So with the payroll protection program, that program was specifically to sustain payroll. So with PPP, it can be forgiven. It can be forgiven if it is used for payroll. So first we'll talk about, because you mentioned when everything first was released. So we'll talk about what the rules were then. And they actually just voted. I was actually reading up on it today, which I have to finish doing, because I want to do an actual webinar on, okay, now you got your PPP funds. How can you keep them? But Congress and the Senate keeps voting on new bills. So it's hard for me to advise people on what to do when they don't even know what they're doing. So with PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, it's specifically for, as I mentioned, to sustain your payroll. For some of the requirements pretty much is that you maintain your number count of employees. You cannot increase your payroll by more than 25% per employee. The payroll is given to employees up to $100,000 of salary. So that's also very important. So let's say if you had an employee that's making $150,000, you will get a cap. You will only be able to allocate $100,000 of that person's salary, right? And that's, again, why you kind of need like a CPA or accountant or whoever you're going to work with to help you through this forgiveness application. I will be offering that service because I know that there is going to be a lot of people that need to get their loans forgiven, and they may screw up the application and then they have to pay back all this money. So in terms of how it's determined, so they do take the monthly average of your payroll. So if you are a sole proprietor, this is very important. If you are a sole proprietor, you do not need to have employees. You can qualify for PPP, right? And so what that means is that you don't need to produce the payroll reports, the 941s, the 940s to them, because those reports are generated when you actually have payroll. You just need to provide them with your taxes. So, you know, if you have a tax preparer, they should already be enlightening you about this, or you should be able to have a conversation with them. If not, you can reach out to me, book a consultation with me. DMs right now is the worst way to try to get in contact with me, because it's the last, kind of like my last contact method that I check, right? Like, I just seen your message from Tuesday. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Because like I have to prioritize, you know, like I have phone calls and emails and clients and so much stuff that I have to keep, you know, DMs as like the last thing. So sometimes if I respond, it may be like days or weeks later, just because I can't prioritize my DMs right now. But so we, what was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, in terms of the forgiveness, you being a sole proprietor, so you can qualify for a sole proprietor. The max loan that you can receive as a sole proprietor, if it's just you, is $20,832. That is the max. Now, if you did have payroll, then what you can do is, if you have some sort of payroll company, they should have some sort of reports. If you don't, that's fine as well. Again, that's also something that I can assist with just coming up and helping you understand. I actually have on my website like a payroll PPP loan calculator. Like, okay, this was my payroll. This is how much my loan amount should be. So if, you know, you guys want to just hop on my website, that's there as well. So, you know, if you actually do have payroll, they use the same method. They're going to use your average monthly for your payroll that you paid out, and then they're going to divide that by 12. Then they are going to multiply that by 2.5. Right. And so that's how they're going to come up with, you know, what your payroll is. So just to put numbers to it, just because I like to do that, because people are like, yeah, I'm following you, but I'm not really following you. So let's just say hypothetically you paid out payroll last year of $12,000. What will happen is that they'll divide the $12,000 by 12, because they need to come up with your average monthly payroll. What they'll do then is come up with $1,000 of average monthly payroll, and then you would multiply that $1,000 of average monthly payroll by 2.5. And so that would give you a loan of $2,500. Right. And so that's how they calculate it. And that's how, you know, they determine how much money you are eligible for. Okay. So those are, you know, what the programs are.
So now, basically they're covering, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So basically they're covering like a month with the loan. They're covering a month of your payroll expenses. Is that what it is?
2.5. Two and a half
months. Right. 2.5.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So they're covering about 2.5 months of your payroll.
Okay.
So what they are, well, originally what they were saying was, okay, you have business owners, you have 8 months to spend this money. That's where the loan forgiveness application is going to come in, where you're going to have to submit this to either the bank or the SBA, just stating, okay, this is exactly what I did with my money. Originally, these were the terms. You had 8 weeks to spend this money. 75 at minimum, 75% had to be allocated to payroll, and then the remaining 25% can be paid on mortgage interest, mortgage interest, rent, utilities for your business. And that's how you determine. And that's if you spend it within that, you can do 100% payroll. But if at minimum you did 75% payroll and then 25%, you know, the other utilities, rent and mortgage insurance, then you'll be able to, you know, you'll be able to get your loan 100% forgiven. So those were the rules up until yesterday. So as I said, they keep voting on new things. Things are not clear with them. You know, they keep trying to change things, and I get it. It is at the benefit, but it just makes it a little difficult for me to advise clients, because I was supposed to do this webinar 2 weeks ago, but I keep putting it off because every time I look, they're going to vote on something new. So I'm like, okay, that'll be a waste of my time, because if I tell somebody something this day and then it's going to change, you know, it doesn't really make sense. Exactly. So the new law is that you now have, you now can spend the money within 24 weeks. And now only 60% has to be allocated to payroll. So they did switch it up, allowed a little bit more leniency. as it related to, you know, how you're spending the money. And I think that that's great because I am feeling like so much pressure where I'm like, oh my God, I have to like help my clients like figure this out. How are they going to pay this payroll, you know, over 8 weeks? Because the reality is when, you know, you're not even giving clear instructions, people aren't, you know, they don't know, do I have to spend this money? Do I have to try to, you know, spend this money? What's going
Right.
on? I don't want to, you know, I don't want to have to pay it back. If I do have to pay it back, how much do I have to pay it back?
Right.
So as the time goes on, they are, you know, releasing more and more information as it relates to PPP. I think they're getting to a better ground in terms of the forgiveness part, which is great. But yeah, I think that honestly, I have seen a lot of money transfer go on. Like right now, if you are a small business owner that was active in 2019, it's a great time to be a small business owner
Right.
because I am seeing so much money being passed around and being given out. However, I also feel like this is going to be an issue or can be an issue in the future
Down the
as
line.
it relates to debt,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now everybody's getting all these loans and they're getting all this money, but if you're not doing the right thing with it to make sure that you're investing it properly into your business so that it can multiply for you. So so let's just say hypothetically with the EIDL loan, that loan, you don't have to start paying on it until 12 months after you receive it.
Okay.
And then that's when your 30-year, 3.5% term starts. But if, you know, that time comes and you've blown the money on, you know, ridiculous things, then, you know,
Right.
it can be an
That's my,
issue.
yeah, so that's my thing. So you have to kind of keep track of what you're spending it on so you can provide that as I guess proof of, you know, that you spent it on your employees first, and then as far as like the PPP goes, you spent it on
Okay.
your employees first
Mhm.
and then your utilities. So you have to show that, right? You have to show like a breakdown of the receipts and things like that, correct?
Yes, so it's in no specific order. So they don't care, you know, if your rent is due first or you pay your
Yeah.
employees, but throughout that time frame, you have to show that you maintain that employee count. So if you had 3 employees, you need to continue to have 3 employees. And that was extremely important for the Democrats to put inside of that bill because originally they were just saying, okay, we can just we're going to give all these businesses money for payroll, but if they didn't put that clause in there where people had to maintain their employees, then what would have happened was a lot of big businesses would have gotten that money and then they can cut their payroll and
Yeah.
not have to worry about paying any money back. So that is one very important thing. So maintaining, but if you do have some sort of payroll, you should have a payroll system. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't currently have a payroll system and you receive PPP and you want to get enrolled in payroll, shoot me an email. My email is ask@missbusiness101.com. It's also in my bio, and I'll connect you with my ADP rep, Nicole. She's amazing. She will help you get set up with payroll because that's important. If you're
Yeah.
saying that you paid payroll, sending a transfer to someone's account is not payroll. You need
Right.
to actually be paying payroll taxes. Right.
Right.
And so that is extremely important. So if you don't have payroll and you need payroll because you're like, listen, I don't want to pay this money back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I already have someone in mind that I want to hire, then, you know, by all means contact me. I'll get you in contact with Nicole so that she can help you get set up with payroll.
Yes, yes. Please do, everyone. Please reach out, and you know, make sure that everything you're doing is to the T, so that you're not stuck in the future owing everything back when you can get forgiven for for some of these loans that you're receiving. And you
Mm-hmm.
made a good point about I'm so glad that the Democratic Party included that in the package, as far as if we give you the loans, you have to still retain the employees even afterwards, because I did hear about some businesses, even some government businesses, who people were saying, oh, they let go of a lot of employees, or the opposite of that is they're hiring employees now because they lost many. And some of the people that they're hiring now, they're not sure if after everything starts opening up and everything gets better, if those employees are only going to be there temporary that they're hiring through the pandemic, or if they're going to get fired during this time. So that's a very good point that you brought up, because I did hear about that, and now I see that it is against the law for them to actually do that. because they should be keeping the employees, not just hiring them during this time. So I do want to ask you, I'm not sure how much we know. I know I've been watching some YouTube videos as well, but there is, the conversation of the second stimulus package that has been introduced and continues to also be tweaked a little bit every now and then. So if you have any information, tell us a little bit about that and what maybe we can expect.
So there is a second stimulus package. Everyone will be receiving another stimulus check. Only thing about this new package is no one knows when they're going to actually send the money out. It can be in July, it could be in August. There was like some communication during it all where they were like, well, if it happens before we go through recess, which I think they do recess in like late June or July or something like that, then we'll just do it after. Right. So there's no specific time frame on when these funds will be released to everyone. And I also think they have to kind of allow the IRS to get on track as well, because, them like pushing out all of this money is probably a lot on them. And they are like not even working full time right now. But in terms of the second stimulus package, I do know that everyone will receive another check for $12,000. The difference between this stimulus package and the other stimulus package is that you will receive $12,000 for every single dependent up to 3 dependents, right? So you will receive more money. A lot of people before, they had either allowed someone to claim them, so they didn't get the money, or, someone who claimed them, they didn't get any money for them, so it kind of puts some people in a very tight space. Another thing that they allowed people to do to get money with this stimulus package, if you have an I-10 number, which is for those individuals that are not immigrants. I mean, the people that are immigrants usually don't have a social security number. So when they come here, they'll have to apply for an I-10 number. Mm-hmm. And when they apply for an I-10 number, so with the first package, they didn't receive anything. So with this package, they are allowing them also to get a stimulus. So I do know that there has also been additional funds being pushed to the PPP and so the small business side. So there's definitely a lot of things in the works for it. It's just a matter of when exactly it's going to be pushed through. If I'm not mistaken, I feel like the small business monies have been pushed through, but I don't think the individual side has been pushed through yet.
Okay, and just to reiterate, so it's 1,200, right? That we're getting for okay.
Did I say 12,000?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. 1,200.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm dealing with these small business loans all day. It's like thousands of dollars being thrown all over the place. Sorry, $1,200, guys. Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's 1,200, guys. All right, and then 1,200 for every member in your household.
Every dependent on your I'm sorry. Somebody said I got them excited. I'm sorry.
So actually, that's actually a jump though, because in the first package they gave 1,200 and then they gave 500 for every dependent. Okay, yep. All right. So that's a good thing. Okay.
Yeah, and then it was a cap on like it could have been your child's, not even every dependent. It was just on your child.
Right.
And they had to be under 17. So it was kind of like a weird spot where some people had children that were in college that they were still claiming. So of course the children weren't claiming themselves, but they were on their parents' returns, but they didn't receive anything for them because they were over 17. So now they get $1,200 for their dependents, any dependent that's on their taxes.
Okay, got it. Awesome. Now, before we move on from this topic, as far as taxes go, how does all of these stimulus payments that they're giving us affect us down the line when we're going to do our taxes next year?
Got you. So a lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't want to take this money because they're going to try to make it, consider it as income next year. So no, that's not the case. What happens is that in the stimulus, they detailed out that it pretty much is an advance on a credit. And so what that means is if you have children or, you go to school, you will receive different types of credits. So there's a difference between taxes as it relates to deductions and then credits. Credits just mean that there is a direct addition or subtraction to your actual refund or tax due amount. So at the end, so for those, let's just say hypothetically, for those who have not received the stimulus, what will happen is when they file their taxes, they're going to receive an additional $1,200 at the end of the year. For those who have received their stimulus, what will happen is that you just won't get the credit at the end of the year. So that's why it's seen as an advance to the credit, because you would have
Right.
received the credit anyway. So it's not going to be any sort of income that you're going to have to pay taxes on.
Okay.
You do need to make sure that when you go file your taxes, that you're filing your taxes with somebody that is going to be knowledgeable
Yes.
about all of these things, because again, you don't want them, taking credits that you already received. I do see a big mess being created from all of this, because what I see is that a lot of people are going to try to get the credit at the end, and they're going to try to get the credit now, and then it's going to be a situation where then they're going to be audited, right? Because the IRS is going to say, hey, well, we have record that you got this credit, right? And so then it turns into a whole issue. So you just want to make sure that, whomever you're going to file your taxes, that they are, capturing the fact that you already received your credit. If you didn't, then get your money at the end of the year.
Yes. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, because I
Mm-hmm.
definitely was one that out of all of these videos that I've seen and stuff on YouTube, they really didn't talk too much about that. If we would have to, if it's something we
Mm-hmm.
owe or anything like that. So thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. Somebody asked really quick, is it true the money's coming on a debit card? The second stimulus?
No. No, they would never do that. On your debit card, your account information. So it is going to come in the same method. So the IRS is never going to draw up or print up debit cards and then
Right.
hand them out to everyone. If you filed your 2017, not 2017, sorry, your 2018 or 2019, and then that also depends too, right? Because the reason why the first stimulus you were able to get away with either filing 2018 or 2019 is because 2019 was not due yet. 2019 they pushed back until July, so they couldn't make it a requirement for you to file. Who knows when they're going to actually approve it? So,
Right.
the terms may be the same, where if you file 2018 or they have direct deposit information, on you for 2019, they'll use the information that they have on file. If not, then they will, just mail the check to you. So those are going to be the options. They're not going to
Yeah.
generate, debit cards and then mail them out to you.
Okay. And somebody
Getting
said, is
audited.
getting audited a bad thing? It is a bad thing if you didn't do something legal.
Yeah,
um,
so I think that people are afraid of, and I do want to talk about audit, like being audited and getting
mhm.
audited, because I feel like when you are a business owner, there are steps and precautions and things that you can take to prevent from being audited. However, if you are correctly doing your accounting throughout the year, so if you're doing your bookkeeping throughout the year, how you should be doing, keeping your receipts, keeping your invoices, doing all those things, it shouldn't be an issue or a hard thing to kind of attack when you go through an audit. Isn't it an annoying process? Yes. Is it something that you just don't want to have to deal with? Yes. But at the end of the day, if you are, a business owner, and I'm going to say business owner because when it relates to individuals are audited, but they're audited because of W-2s or,
Right.
things that they can actually submit, that sometimes
Mhm.
it's like the employer fault, right? The employer probably wasn't paying their taxes properly. So they're like, hey, you reported this and your employer reported that. It's not matching. Help us help you, right? Or some other things. Sometimes people, of course, will like try to claim kids and all of those things, right? Again, if you have the correct documentation, if you have an accountant that you can talk to up front to say, okay, well, I'm claiming this child now, I'm now this is now my dependent, what exactly am I going to need? Because a lot of people also run into an issue when it comes to as it relates to, let's say, babysitting. That's like a huge one on the individual side, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, I just kind of paid them like one off, but you have to kind of make sure that's done correctly. But those are like the most common things on the individual side. But on the business side, that's why you have to make sure that your bookkeeping is in order. Your bookkeeping has to be A1. You have to hold on to these receipts, and you have to have some sort of software. As you develop in your business, like I tell people, when you first get into business, it may be logical that you can't afford to have a bookkeeper. However, as time goes on, one, as a CEO, you shouldn't be focusing on accounting. You should be focusing on bringing money into your business, because honestly, you cannot do everything. You have to delegate, because you will become so clouded in your mind that you can't really focus on anything else besides, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. And then your business isn't growing because you can't sit back to actually do things to help your business grow. But, you should be holding on to those receipts. Like for me, I use QuickBooks with my clients, and, for my clients, if they have their receipts, we're attaching those receipts to the actual transaction. So I don't even encourage holding on to receipts and like putting them in a folder. I encourage you to take a picture of them, because receipts fade. And if you are audited, and the IRS can come and audit you at any point, let's say they come to you 3 years from now, that receipt that you were holding on, if you go in that folder, it's probably faded. Right. And that's just what it is. And they're not going to understand or try to hear that your receipt is faded. So yeah, I think just practices, it may happen. As being a business owner, this is what you may just have to deal with, but you just have to make sure that everything is in line and in order. So if the IRS comes to you and say, hey, we want all of your bank statements, we want all of your records, we want all of the receipts that goes with this, it should be like, all right, either who can I call so that they can get this done, or how can I, like, okay, here's everything that you already need. Right. So to the question, it's not a bad thing. It's just, I kind of almost feel like when you're in business, it's something that just may happen.
Comes with it.
There's a lot of things. Let me just say this though. There's a lot of things that people can do to prevent from being audited. A lot. But because they are not experienced, like there's so many things that I can automatically look at, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I can see why they're auditing you. I can see why they're contacting you. Right? Just certain line items or how you're filing. One thing I do want to say to small business owners, because everyone is LLC happy. When you file your taxes as an LLC, as a sole proprietorship, what that does is that increases your chances of getting audited by like 5 times. And the reason why it increases your chances is because when you're filing your taxes, your Schedule C is just there. Every single thing that you have written off, all of your income, all the categories that you decided to use. And guess what? Now on the individual side, now they're running that through their software, right? Because it's like a lottery for them. They don't sit there and handpick it. It's like a lottery. So you go through this and you're putting all this stuff on the Schedule C. Now you're increasing your chances of getting audited. You either need to get your business in some sort of S corporation, or partnership, and make sure that you're filing separate business tax returns. And if there is any sort of distributions or any sort of income that needs to flow onto your personal taxes, it'll just be a number. It'll just say it's a profit of $10,000 coming from this business. Done. Opposed to you showing all of your revenue and all of your expenses, it opens up that can of worms. And that is like my number one to people. I'm like, yeah, none of my clients that are like making money are filing their taxes like this. Like this is like, it's almost like you're asking to be audited.
Because what you're saying is that a lot of LLCs, they'll mix their business tax with their personal, because you can do that as an LLC. Right? That's what you're.
Yeah. So that's how you have to file it. So you have to file your business taxes along with your personal taxes.
With your personal.
Yes. But when you're an S corp or a corporation or a partnership, your taxes are filed on a separate tax return, and then whatever profit you're making on there, this is for partnerships and S corps. Whatever profit you're making there then passes through to your personal taxes. So instead of giving all that detail, you're not saying, oh, this is everything that I made, everything that I wrote off. It'll just come through as one line. From S corp, $10,000. That's it.
Okay.
right? And so that's like a huge difference in regards to, you know, clients getting audited. It's a huge difference.
Okay. I have a quick question. Because I did
Yeah.
want to touch on a few other things before we get off. Did the deadline for filing your taxes already pass, or have they extended it again?
It's July 15th.
July 15th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who haven't filed, you have till July 15th. Okay,
Yep.
awesome. Somebody asked about the disaster relief loan. If you can answer
Um,
if you can answer that real quick.
yeah, so we talked about that. So the question, did we already
Yeah.
discuss it? Yes, we did. The EIDL
Mhm.
with the pre-advance and then the loan portion. It seems that they are getting to the loan portion. You know, it is just a matter of where you are in your business. I've seen the guidelines in terms of what you cannot spend the money on. So if you ideally how they mapped it out is that you can really take that money and invest it in your business and use it in your business. So if you are in a place where you're like, okay, I want to take this money and invest it in my business, I think that that would be a great idea, because so many people are always like, oh my God, I want funding for my business. I need a small business loan. They're throwing these loans away at this point.
Right.
So, you know, if you need an SBA loan, I would say go ahead and do it. It's 3.5%. The cost of borrowing that money is not at a terrible rate. So I would say go ahead and do it, but just be smart about it. And please do not take 30 years to pay this off. It is not a mortgage for your home. Do not take 30 years to pay it off, because that will be a lot of interest.
Yeah, and also like you mentioned earlier, use it for its purpose, because
Yeah,
they will track you down. I saw a few
that's it.
instances already, so definitely yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
um, yeah. So you did talk a little bit about separating your personal taxes from your business taxes, which is something I wanted to ask you about as
Mm-hmm.
well. So you mentioned LLCs, you're supposed to file it with your personal taxes. So can you tell us, as someone, let's say, who's just starting their business, would you recommend that they file under that they become an S corp or a C corp, as opposed to an LLC? And can they do that if they're just getting started?
It's so yes, they can do it if they're first if they're just getting started. However, it all depends, right? And that's why they, you know, you definitely have to have the conversation, because I have some clients who are getting started and starting a business because they have contracts lined up. That's very different from a person that you know, may have their business and they're trying to figure it all out, and they're probably going to be operating at a loss. Don't get me wrong, if you're operating at a loss, you can be an LLC, but however, again, you are going to have that them, oh, you're opening the, you know, opening them opening yourself up and your business up to be audited, because it does have to be filed with your business. So your personal taxes. So me personally, just for that reason, I would suggest, you know, going ahead and being like an S corporation. However, yes, to your question, can you be an LLC? Absolutely, you can be an LLC. And just for people to know, S corporations, you don't start out as an S corporation. You start out as either an LLC or you start out
Okay.
as a corporation, and then you elect to be taxed as an S corporation, right?
Got
And
it.
so that is what's important. So you can start out as an LLC and then convert over to an S corp. I do that for clients all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may have an LLC. Let's convert you over to an S corp. It's going to save you on taxes, and it's going to reduce your chances of being audited. So, you know, it is a situation where it really depends. Like I have some clients, I'm like, listen, just stay as an LLC. Because the reality is, when you start being an S corp, it's more expensive. However, from a tax perspective, it is going to save you more. And, you know, it's going to be more beneficial for you in terms of the audit.
Okay, got it. Awesome.
Hello. I love
That's
you too.
really good to know. Thank you for everybody who's been tuning in. I definitely hope you've been taking notes. And you know, thank you, Ms. Business. I know you've been having these conversations all over. So
No
I
problem.
appreciate
No problem.
it. Let's see. Let's talk about one last thing before we get off. I wanted to ask you about the importance of having bookkeeping and having, you talked a little bit about your employee payroll through ADP and stuff like that. Can you let everyone know how important that is to track your expenses from the beginning, and also have a company or system that you're working with for your payroll as well, employee payroll?
Yes. So one thing, when you start a business, there are a lot of obligations. There are a lot of tax filings, payroll filings. You want to make sure that you're on top of it, right? Because there can be annual taxes, sales taxes. Depending on your industry, there can be a specific tax for your industry. There can also be quarterly taxes that you need to pay, as well as payroll taxes, right? So I just kind of want to bring that to the forefront, just to let people know that there's a lot that you need to make sure that you're covering, because I've seen a lot of people lose their businesses strictly to taxes, and you don't want to be that person, right? But to your first question of how important is bookkeeping, bookkeeping is everything. And as I mentioned before, like and I'll say this before I get into that. I put bookkeeping, like, I hate bookkeeping. I love taxes, right? Like, if you meet accountants, you'll either find accountants or CPAs that either love bookkeeping or love taxes. I love taxes. Like, I want to get in there. I want to save you on money. I want to show you what you can do. That's what I love. However, of course, I understand bookkeeping, and I understand the importance of it. And so I knew that I couldn't really help small business owners save on taxes if I didn't have bookkeeping as a service in my business. So I added bookkeeping as a service in my business because I needed to be able to help them thoroughly. And sometimes there's a disconnect when that is being done outside of the company, right? Because I don't know, what their knowledge is, how they're approaching things. And so that was why I, brung bookkeeping in. But bookkeeping is so important because, one, I can't help you save on taxes. So I do tax planning with my clients. For those of you that don't know, tax planning pretty much is when you sit down, business owners, your time to talk about taxes is not January through April. Your time to talk about taxes is before the year is over. Right? Because if there's something that you can do to change your tax liability, then you should be doing it. So that's why I brung in bookkeeping, so that I can integrate tax planning, because if I can integrate, tax planning, that's how I'm going to help people save on taxes. So bookkeeping is important because we need to know where your money is going. You need to be able to say, you know what? This is my profit and loss statement. Oh my God, my cost of goods sold is at 50% of my revenue. Your cost of goods sold should not be at 50% of your revenue, right? So now you can look at it and say, okay, where am I spending my money? How can I reduce this? Oh my God, this is how much money I'm paying in payroll. How can I reduce my payroll? But you won't know that if you're just spending money, because again, it's kind of that thing where when you're not delegating, you're so involved in it that you're just like dishing money out and trying to make it work and trying to, see another day, to a point where you're not really doing the important work of analyzing where your money is going in your business. Right. And so that is super, super important.
Yes. Well, we are running out of time.
Okay.
I wish I could have you on here asking you more and more questions, but we'll definitely talk offline. And, I want to thank you again for also being, so approachable, and answering to all of us. I know you're super busy. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure everyone else does as well. Yes. And shout out to BB, the brand here. Hey, girl. Yes. So a few people were asking if they can watch this again. Definitely, I'm gonna save it on the IG IG Live TV, and also I'm gonna put it on YouTube and on the website. So just go into the page afterwards, and I'll let you know where it's saved. So we have under a minute. I just want you to let everyone know what makes you fearless, and give us at least 2 strong business advice before we close out.
Oh my God. You just told me this was going to be a question. What makes me fearless? What makes me fearless is that I don't have fear. I do not have fear. If there is something that I need to do or I need to figure it out, I will break it down into the smallest pieces so that it's digestible, so that I can get it done. So I am super, like, I don't take no for an answer. I always say that business is my superpower. I love it. I get it. I get it done. So yeah, I think that is my, I think that's my fearless tip. Like, you cannot be fearful. You have to figure it out. Like, figure it out, whether that's a person that's going to help you figure it out, or whether it's something that some class you need to take. However you need to figure it out, you need to figure it out. Now, what was the other thing? 2 tips?
It was 2 tips. If you can say it real quick, we literally have 3 seconds. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.